Oh, thank you, Steven. It's not just you. The microphone was turned off. Boy, this is a series of unforced errors on my part today. I pressed the wrong button before the stream even started, so I lost 5 minutes there, and now I just had the volume off. So hopefully now, at long last, everybody should be able to actually see me, see my screen, and hear me. So my apologies for the now 7 minutes of delay, but let me know if you guys can hear me and that everything's up and running now. I think I got it all correct at last. So for me for the third time, but maybe for you guys for the first time. Hello Scott, hello Sour Melon Gaming, hello Steven, hello Jeff, hello Gorilla, hello Barry, Organic, Robert. Anybody else I may have missed? Hello and welcome. Welcome to the stream. We got a lot going on in Bitcoin. All right, let's see. I just want to make sure people are actually seeing me. Barry, my son's going to take a little vacation at some point, so here's what I've been doing. He's taught me how to do this whole thing by myself. So I'm doing a bunch of test runs, and I bet you guys can guess which ones have been my test runs where I try to do them myself. So I'm not quite there yet, but I'll get there. All right, so it looks like from reading the chat that you guys can now see me and hear me, etc. Hello, Austin. Hello, Keith. Yeah, can I flick the switch that turns Bitcoin on again, too? Yeah, if I could, I would. Today was not what I wanted in Bitcoin. I don't think it was a disaster. It was, this is mostly sideways, we'll see, but it was a little bit down. All the Bitcoin miners took another step down again, and it accelerated a little bit at the end of the day, even though that wasn't really Bitcoin's low on the day. The Bitcoin miners, once again, reacted poorly, and I want to go through my weekend charts in case you guys didn't catch my weekend update. Last week was not a good week for the Bitcoin miners. Last week was okay for Bitcoin. We were up Friday over Friday. We were up 4% in Bitcoin. So, that's positive. It's not off to the races, but it's positive. But the Bitcoin miners did not do so well last week. And this Monday seems to be a continuation of that. So we got to turn that around. Everything looked like it was maybe set up last night to have a good day today, but that's not how it played out. So I'll show you in some of the technicals I was looking at where all of a sudden everything just kind of stopped and turned around and went the other way. I don't know why. Gorilla said, who bought today? Was tempted but didn't buy. Hey, Keith. Hey, Bert. Let's see. Oh, yes. If everybody could please smash the like button, I would appreciate it very much. It helps the stream a lot. I want to go for all-time record stream today. Oh, I thought of another way to do that. So at some point in a minute, I'm going to disappear for a second and do something else. Saw some FUD on Twitter about, this is Jeff, saw some FUD on Twitter about CleanSpark in regards to Mawson. Didn't get a chance to look into it. So I have not seen that yet today, so I'll have to look for that. Oh, Mawson sold all the shares they got in the deal with CleanSpark. Okay. 1,000 likes. Yes, I'll be happy. Let's get 100. We're at, right now, I'm seeing 25 likes. So anybody who hasn't smashed the like button, do us a favor. You can unsmash it later, so if that makes you feel better. But it helps when we're on the live stream. It makes a huge difference. So sorry to be a pest about it, but it really does help. And we've been getting our 100. So I don't know. Jeff, I'll have to look into that and see if Mawson sold their shares. That could be. I mean, if that's true, then actually CleanSpark held up just fine today because they really didn't underperform versus the rest of the Bitcoin miners. So if we look, if I'm going to scroll out, this was where Bitcoin was when the U.S. markets closed on Friday. So if I measure from the close on Friday until the close today, and the close today was here. So that's 3%. That's a pretty decent move down. So if you look at the Bitcoin miners, I guess, you know, when you put it in that perspective, if Bitcoin was down 3%, you know, Bitfarms was down 2.5%. HUT was down almost 6, Hive over 6. So 6, 7, 8, those make sense to me. Cypher was down 12, but I'm going to show you a chart later. Cypher has run up so huge that it's just cooling off a little bit right now. The two biggest ones, Riot and Marathon, did not have a great day. Down 6.8% for Riot, down just under 9% for Marathon. And then Cypher, which is the third largest market cap, a distant third, but the third largest, that was down 11.68 cents. Or sorry, 11.68%. But like I said, we'll take a look. They have run wild. So the run up has been massive. So they're just taking a little opportunity to cool off for a minute here. So I'm not worried about them. Barry said it's okay. I'm sure some bank will go kaput this week, raising Bitcoin and the miners. Deutsche Bank probably. Yeah, a lot of rumors and stuff on the street about that. So I don't know if and when that's coming, and that's, you know, that's not the only one. There's a lot of people pounding the table right now. A lot of people worried, and then I want to show you what people think the Fed is going to do, because I am now officially confused. So I want to get everybody else's thoughts on that. We'll do a poll because it's bouncing all over the place. I'm not sure what's going on. James said, if we are looking for parallel financial systems, Bitcoin just might fit the bill. Well, that would be nice. That is our hope. That's the point. And then Steven said, James, I don't think it's ready yet, but one day probably. So, yeah, and it's not going to happen overnight. But I do think even in this little crisis, if you will, if we're willing to call it that, or I think it's not quite a crisis yet, but in this little banking situation we're going through over the last few weeks, the flight to safety has definitely included, if not started with, Bitcoin. Not even so much cryptocurrency, because the Bitcoin dominance continues to go up as well. So I don't know, you know, if the altcoins will catch up over time. XRP is a different situation. As soon as George gets off his call, I know he's going to want to talk about that, because that has been on the run as well. Let's see, Jeff. All I'm going to say is the last time the squeeze shoot pattern printed 8 days later, FTX collapsed. Today is 8 days since the last squeeze shoot, and Binance and CB on the rails. Well, that's on my list. I want to talk FUD around Binance, and I hear you, Jeff, and you called that last one. I was not happy about it, because we did fall off a cliff there on November 8th and 9th, and Jeff had called that. But I'm going the other way this time. I'm feeling strong. I think the Binance situation is going to play out differently, in my opinion. But we'll wait and see. I mean, you know, they're coming after Binance. There's no doubt about it. At a minimum, just creating a lot of FUD surrounding them. All right, we got 41 likes. Good job, everybody. If you have not smashed the like button, if you could do us a favor and please smash the like button. It helps the live stream out a lot. Scott is asking, Tom, feelings about MicroStrategy. I'm 90% in. That is actually, I wrote down 3 polls that I wanted to do today, and one of them includes that question. So I'm going to wait. Let me get the first poll up, but I want to do the poll before I answer that question, Scott, because I have some thoughts on that for sure. All right, so for starters, I'm just going to do a quick poll here. All right, so just a quick poll, and then I'm going to show you, after that, I'm going to show you why I'm asking this question, because there seems to be a lot of confusion out there. So what is the Fed going to do at the next meeting, which I think isn't until the first week in May? So the two realistic scenarios are raise, 25 basis points, or no raise, just zero. So I did leave an option for other. I mean, I guess it's not impossible that they could do other, and the other choices would be raise 50 basis points, which I think there's absolutely no chance of. Or, theoretically, I guess if things got bad enough, they could lower interest rates, but I think that would be a desperate move, or at least that's how it would be perceived at this point. So I think those are the two reasonable scenarios. So let's see what everybody thinks. If you haven't voted, you can weigh in on that one. Obviously free to vote. All right, so Doxa. I have actually, that's a whole conversation I'm going to go through today. So thank you for bringing that up. And the question was, Bitcoin miners versus MicroStrategy, and I had some other ones to throw in the mix there. So Jeff is saying the Bitcoin miners, I think, was his immediate answer. Yeah, because there was MicroStrategy news today. So let's go through. Let's talk about Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy snaps up another 6,455 Bitcoin as token rallies, bringing its total holdings to $3.88 billion. But let's get to the actual number of Bitcoin. 138,955 Bitcoin. So that's, not all that. The recent acquisitions bring the software company's holdings up to 138,955 Bitcoin per CoinDesk. Their all-in average for all 138,000 is 29,800. So we're still a little bit off of that. But if I can find it, yeah. This purchase, the purchases were made at an average of about 23,000. So the 6,000 coins that he just bought, 6,455 coins, they were able to average in at $23,238. So obviously, even after a pullback of 3% today, we're still nicely above that. So we'll see where everybody thinks we're going. But at the moment, it seems like that was good, and they just continue to add to this total. So they are the institution they're the publicly traded company with the most Bitcoin on their balance sheet by a mile. And I think that I think Marathon is second, but just like a ridiculously distant second. They have maybe 11,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. There's other entities that hold more Bitcoin than that, but not publicly traded. Gorilla said Michael Saylor will be the richest man on Earth one day. Well, he could get himself on the list. There's a lot of other people with a lot of Bitcoin in their own personal wallets. So depending on where this thing goes, there could be an awful lot of wealth generated. Edmund. Oh, thank you, Edmund. Edmund, who just joined a couple weeks ago, said, recommend joining. Tom does a terrific job. Let's all support his work. Thank you, Edmund. Much appreciated. I hope you're enjoying the membership. I'm putting a link in the description. If you want to become a member, you can hit the join button on the YouTube page. It goes, it's right through YouTube/Google, so you don't have to partner up with any third party. And we have a lot of content already in there. We do a deep dive every week. Tomorrow, which is Tuesday, we will have a members-only live stream after the market closes where the members get to vote on and pick a stock for me to do a deep dive on that they pick. So sometimes it's a company I've never even heard of, so that takes me a long time. I do my full deep dive on those and put a video out. We also have a members-only Discord so that we can keep the conversation going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So for anybody who is interested, we would love to have you in there, and it does help support the channel. So much appreciated to all the existing members. All right, we're at 44 likes. If you have not yet, if you could please smash the like button, it helps the live stream out a lot. Much appreciated. All right, so this is what happened with MicroStrategy today. So they continue to do their thing. They hold, just under $4 billion worth of Bitcoin. Scott Richardson, thank you so much for the super chat. Scott Richardson has a super chat with a question. MicroStrategy getting a much better deal on loan during Silvergate fire sale. All for a very small dilution. Love your show, Tom. Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. Yeah, so that's a part of the... That is one of the... That's going to be... I'll do that poll next. Is MicroStrategy now a better way to play Bitcoin? And I got, I think, 3 or 4 options that you can choose from. All right. But I'm definitely starting to... All right, if you guys just heard that noise, that is thanks to Scott Richardson for the super chat. Much appreciated. Brent, hello. Welcome to the live stream. So I think this article basically just said, oh, well, in addition, so yeah, so in addition to buying those 6,000 plus Bitcoin, MicroStrategy pays off Silvergate loan and buys more Bitcoin. The company borrowed $205 million from Silvergate Bank last March. Prepaid the remaining principal on its $205 million loan from failed crypto-focused Silvergate Bank, according to a filing with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. In addition to that, they purchased 6,455 Bitcoin for roughly $150 million. So the loan payoff, which was made last Friday and totaled $161 million. So also, it's worth noting that, so this sentence is important in my opinion. The loan payoff was made last Friday and totaled $161 million. As part of the satisfaction of the loan, 34,619 Bitcoin held as collateral were returned to MicroStrategy's custody. The company took out the loan last March. So, not only does it pay off the loan, it reduces their, now, I believe they did all of this. They did have to raise the money. So, I think that here we go. So this finishes off by saying MicroStrategy also disclosed that it had raised $339.4 million this year through the sale of its shares and used the proceeds to pay back the loan from Silvergate, obviously, and in addition to that, to buy Bitcoin. So... And Scott is saying they saved $40 million on that loan by this early payoff. So they got to save the money. They got to get their Bitcoin, retake physical possession of their Bitcoin, which is important. And there was some dilution. And I want to show you what happened to the stock today. And that's why I bring, and I think that's why some of you guys are asking. And that's why I bring it up. It's like with all of that, the stock was down basically 7% today, and it was worse than that for the vast majority of the day. This finished at about $239, but it did get down to $230.79. So this was down more along the lines of 10% for the vast majority of the day today. So to me, I thought that was a buying opportunity. At the same time as this was down, we've got, hello, Ray, welcome. We've got Coinbase that got beat up today. That continues to get beat up, and it got beat up again today, down another 7.8%. So this has pulled back significantly. If you guys remember, they got a Wells notice. So they're anticipating some potential action from the SEC on a going forward basis. They're already kind of doing battle with the SEC, but I think his name's Brian Armstrong. We went through this on the live stream on Friday. He put out a series of 6 or 7 tweets where they feel like they're in the right, and they feel like if the SEC wants to duke it out, then, you know, nobody wants that, but they're ready and they feel comfortable with what they've done and that they're in compliance. So all of these things put together have got to push everything to some regulation, because it's very difficult, in my opinion, for the SEC to run around and tell everybody they're doing things wrong when they haven't made the rules yet. And, you know, I don't think it's really even the SEC that's going to end up making these rules. I don't think that's their job. Somebody has to decide. That somebody is Congress, who, you know, who's in control of what. And then from there, you know, if certain coins get turned over to the SEC, then they'll be in control. Some may be considered commodities. But in the meantime, we're in this land of the unknown, and Gary Gensler is suing everybody that he can, you know, think of. So it's not just Coinbase, because then, and this one's not Gensler, he's already duking it out with Binance, but then the commodities, let's find that. Binance and founder CZ violated compliance rules to attract U.S. users, the CFTC alleges, and the CFTC, as you'll see, is the Commodities Future and Trading Commission. So this is the counterpart to the SEC. So those two, most of these coins right now, I think it is universally accepted that Bitcoin is going to be considered a commodity in the United States, so it will fall under this body. From Gary Gensler's perspective, all the rest of everything in the crypto universe, including Ethereum, in his mind, those are all those should all fall under the SEC. Those are all equities, if you will. So we don't know what the answer to that is. So he continues to sue a lot of people, some of which, you know, some of the smaller people have paid some big fines or complied with what the SEC wanted them to do. Some of these bigger guys, you know, it's not going to be quite as easy to get where they want to go with, particularly Binance, in my opinion, and Coinbase. And particularly Coinbase, because they did an IPO. So they do have a very, very strong case. I mean, they were pretty crystal clear in their IPO exactly what it was that they were going to do. So all the things that they're complaining about, they knew about when they okayed the IPO, in my opinion. Obviously, I'm not 100% familiar with every single detail, so you can drop in the comments if you think I'm missing the big picture on that one. Let's see. The stock got shelled, but less than Marathon. Yeah, I mean, these two stocks. So if I go back to them, MicroStrategy was down almost 7%. Coinbase was down almost 8%. So those were bad days, and they had bad news, you know, that did that. But, you know, if you look at it, if we go back here, I mean, Riot was down almost 7%. Marathon was down almost 9%. Cypher was down over 11%. Iris Energy down 7%. So in some ways, you know, they just followed along with the crypto world, you know, and just had bad days. So I'm not sure how much to attribute to one versus the other. You know, was it the news that knocked them down, or do they just continue to get beat up along with all the other cryptocurrency type you know, companies out there? Let's see. Tom, recommend, this is from Edmund, an interview with TeraWulf CEO Paul Prager or the COO. Khan was on McNally Money a few weeks ago. So I am going to reach, that's on my list. I just did my interview with Aiden from Hive Blockchain. So I have somebody in line next, and then I will talk to, excuse me. Okay, sorry about that. I will reach out to Paul at TeraWulf as well. Are people interested in hearing from TeraWulf? I mean, I know to me, I'm getting very interested in their story. So I've done a couple of videos on them. I would love to talk to Paul, but I will tell you that I am surprised for some reason, whatever reason, and I left it alone and gave it all weekend to itself, but the interview with Hive Blockchain's CEO, Aiden, is one of the least watched videos that I've done in the last year. And typically the interviews get more views. But so if you haven't watched it, check it out. You might want to, you know, jump around. I think we made some chapters if you don't want to watch. It's an hour long, and I just be honest, I never watch an hour long. Well, I shouldn't say never, but I very rarely will commit an entire hour. The other thing that I do that you can do on that video and most of my videos, if you go to 1.5 speed, I'm still totally understandable at 1.5 speed. So, you know, if you want to save yourself some time on a 10 or 12 minute video, who cares? But, you know, on a longer video, you can speed it up and everything is still totally audible. So for those who are interested, you could check that interview out. I do want to do more interviews, but I do fear that, you know, if these CEOs look at the channel and see that the only videos that are failing are the videos that are interviews with CEOs, they may be reluctant to come on and, you know, do that. Yes, Jeff. Next is Matt. So Matt is next. I talked about trying to get Fred on, and I do want, and we've never talked to Paul at TeraWulf, so, and we've never talked to Fred. Brent said 1.5x is the ticket, so he's already all over that. Sourmelon Gaming said, I watched the Hive interview, but I'm personally not a fan of the company. I would be very interested in the TeraWulf interview. Yeah, and that's, I mean, I know they're definitely, each company has different levels of interest, but I will say in general, TeraWulf is starting to gain a little bit of steam, but TeraWulf was very late to the game versus a lot of the other ones on the list. So, you know, they're not as popular yet. So I'll probably do it and see how it goes. And I guess we'll just see what happens. Hive used to be exceptionally popular. People that there was a time where they might have been the most popular publicly traded Bitcoin miner. And I think the merge where Ethereum went to proof of stake, I think people lost a lot of interest. That changed their business model, but they still have a very, in my opinion, what you can watch the interview, they're moving in the right direction, and they have a very strong balance sheet. So I think it's an interesting company, but I agree that somehow it's fallen out of the limelight lately, probably because of the Ethereum thing. Jeff said, when I have to listen to the Friday stream, I do 1.5 or 2. And it's great. Yeah. Sometimes by the time I get to 2, I have a little trouble keeping up. But at 1.5, usually, most, and I know a lot of YouTubers talk very, very fast. So I do have a few YouTubers that I like where even when I crank them up to 1.5, I'm like, well, that's a little bit much. I got to go to 1.25. So, but you guys can be the judge. Bert said, make the video shorter. So you might be talking about the Hive blockchain interview. You know, maybe I can cut that up into segments and put just pieces of that interview out, because you're right. You know, people are a lot less likely to click on our interview. And most of my interviews are more like 30 to 45 minutes. I had an awful lot to say, so it went a little longer than I normally go. And maybe that's one of the reasons. I don't know. Austin said, I think he would come on the channel. He reposted your video on Twitter. Austin, I think, is talking about, is this TerraWolf, I'm guessing? So yeah, I mean, I'll reach out to them. I definitely, and it sounds like a lot more of you guys are interested in TerraWolf than I expected. They're doing a lot of good stuff. I did do, you know, if you haven't seen my deep dive, I did do each of the last 2 months in a row. I've done a deep dive on them after they put their monthly operational report out. So for those of you who follow me and know the channel, you know that is one of the companies that I've been buying into in 2023. So I'm going to end this other poll, and it's, you know, it's funny. This is what's happening. People are absolutely conflicted. What is the Fed going to do in the next meeting? Raise rates 25 basis points, 49%. Raise 0, 47%. And other, 4%. So very close to a statistical tie. I'm calling it within the margin of error. So, but I want to compare that, because the reason I did this, and I guess it should be no surprise, but I am surprised. If you go over to the CME, which measures the futures, this measures the probability of what the market is pricing in. You'll see right now the market is very similar to the poll that we just took. So congratulations to you guys. You represent the entire market apparently. 0% is at about, so 0 basis points is at about 54% right now. 25 basis points is at 46%. Everything else is 0. But what's curious to me is, if you see 1 day ago, this was 83. A week ago, it was 48. And I'm talking about 0 basis points. So a 0 basis point rate hike, so no rate hike. You know, 1 day ago was at 83, but this was up as high as 98% in the middle of the week last week. So we went from the entire market pricing in, you know, almost 100% chance that there was going to be 0 basis point to, you know, this poll is basically, you know, flip a coin now. This is about as close to 50-50 as you get. So I don't know what changed. If you guys want to drop in the chat, what do you think changed and has led everybody to, you know, I guess lose, not everybody, but a significant number of people have lost a lot of confidence in this 0% hike. You know, and I'm not sure it ever made sense for it to be that high. You know, we talked about that on the channel, but I did think the door was open for this to happen. And, you know, now we'll keep this is something I keep my eye on, because it's important to know what expectations are. And this is a ways out. So, you know, it's not necessarily pending, and we're going to get some CPE numbers in the middle. So, you know, there's more information coming, but I like to keep my eye on this. I think it's one of the things that, you know, gives us a little bit of the big picture. Another one is, so let's go, I'm going to go back up here. So I've been talking about this recently. We've been, from time to time we talk about the DXY, which is the strength of the US dollar. This green line represents a 20-year high. You'll see we broke above this in April of 2022. That's coming up on a year ago. And for the vast majority of that time, we have been above this 20-year high. Now, we had in January of 2023, you'll see we dropped below this. We had a nice rally in the market, an even better rally in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. So being below this line has been very healthy for the equities, but even more so for Bitcoin and the rest of the cryptocurrencies. So I'm looking to see if we can take a run back down here, get back to, let's see, this got as low as 100. So it looks like that was the bottom. This got down to 100. So, we're at 102.8. If this, if we could hang out down here for a little while, maybe we could have a little rally again. That's what I'm looking for. Edmund saying TerraWolf interview will be the best after the next production report around April 7th. So, yeah, that would also be nice to see everybody's April numbers. We're almost at the end of March here, so everybody's March numbers, I guess, we'll see in the first usually 10 days of the following month. Is everybody's getting them out in that type of a time frame now, so that's a lot faster than they used to. So yeah, it would be nice to see. And February was a tricky month. It's the shortest month of the year, and believe it or not, I mean, it does make a difference. It's just about 10% shorter than the other months. Plus, the difficulty level was up, and I will say it's going to keep going up. We reached almost 400 exahash for the first time ever a couple of days ago on the worldwide Bitcoin network. So the more that happens, the more and more the difficulty level is going to rise up. Now we're at Bitcoin, 27,000. So that's an awful lot better than Bitcoin 17,000. The gross profit difference is massive, especially as, the difficulty level increases, and that erodes your gross profit because each coin is going to cost more just based on the fact that, the difficulty level has increased. So it helps an awful lot that Bitcoin just, basically did a $10,000 jump over the period of the last quarter. The fourth quarter of 2022 was a nightmare train wreck. So James said, I've been invested in Hive for a while. I watched your hour-long video. I love the company, and I am in for the long haul. Barry said, Hive video was great. Thank you, James and Barry. Jeff said, which miners do you think could post positive earnings per share the next quarterly report? So that would be Q1, the quarter about to end a few days from now. So it's still going to be pretty tough to post a positive EPS in Q1 of 2023. I'm calling it Q1 of 2023. Some of these companies don't work on a calendar year, but the period ended March 31st, 2023. When people report on that quarter, I'm not sure if anybody's going to be all the way. Well, it should be interesting based on what Cypher and TerraWolf are saying their cost per Bitcoin is. They could make a run. They could make a run potentially at some profit. Based on Hive's very low overhead, their cost per coin is a little bit higher, but it's competitive. And they have a high level of efficiency, and they have a very low overhead. So they might stand a chance at some earnings per share. I'm going to be looking at, I'm going to keep looking at, I want to see on the statement of cash flows, I want to see cash flow from operations. I want to see that all these companies are now cash flow positive, and they should be contributing. Ultimately, if they can be cash flow positive to the extent where they're, if they're growing their exahash, they're doing so through the money that they get from operations, and, they pay all their overhead. So we'll see. We're a little ways out before we get these, but those are the ones, I guess, I'm not holding out a lot of hope. I mean, Marathon lost $600 or $700 million last year. I don't think they're going to get from that to earnings in the first quarter, but certainly 2023, a lot of these companies, it would be my expectation that the companies that succeed should be getting to profitability this year in 2023. I would have said the same thing last year, to be fair. So, we'll see what happens. Obviously, we went into a deep crypto winter, and that did not happen last year. But I believe we've bottomed out. And even though there's going to be a lot of volatility ahead, I think if Bitcoin can stay, anywhere from 25,000 to, I think we could get up much higher than that at certain points during the year. I don't know where we're going to end the year, but I think somewhere between 40 and 48,000, I think we will reach during the year 2023. That's my personal price target. Again, that doesn't mean it's going to be December 31st, 2023. We'll see what part of the cycle we're in at that point. And then we're just months away from the halving. And then typically, within 1 or 2 quarters of that, we've entered the, blow off top phase of the 4-year cycle. So we'll see. I'm not sure how patient everybody's going to have to be. Anybody here has already been quite patient because this was a long, rough crypto winter. James said, I think part of Hive's issue was the 1-for-5 stock consolidation last May. I mean, I know a lot of people that rubs people the wrong way, the reverse stock split. For them, I think they did it for an express purpose, and it was very bad timing because, Bitcoin fell apart after that. I think their real point of that was to get over $5 and to start to get some more institutional investing. There are a lot of institutions that use that $5 thing as a benchmark. I'm just going to see this. My phone ringing. I'm going to see if it's George. No, not George. I don't know what happened to George. He was on. I don't know if anybody ever got to see him. He was on the beginning of this live stream, but I think that was when I had the stream set up incorrectly. So he's out. George, if you're out there, come back. So anyway, Hive's timing turned out to be awful on that. But I will tell you, I did several videos analyzing that. Their stock did not get hit any harder. In fact, their stock performed slightly better than the average Bitcoin mining stock since they did that reverse stock split. So I don't think it killed them, but all the Bitcoin miners have pretty much been trashed coming into that and subsequent to that. So, this has been a tough run. Ray said, Tom, I know some of you guys don't like Marathon. Why? What are the bad things about the firm? Thought it would be the #1 Bitcoin miner in terms of Bitcoin production. Am I wrong? So, double answer to this question. Number one, there's a lot of people that think I hate Marathon, and there's just as many people that think I love Marathon. I've been, I've literally been accused of being paid by Marathon to, I'm a shill pushing their stock. So obviously that is not true. And in the very same video, I'll have other people that say, why do you hate Marathon so much? What's the matter with you? So I'm just, Marathon has some good things about them and some bad things about them. Operationally speaking, so my issue with Marathon, I'll give you both issues. I think their balance sheet is a fortress. It's rock solid. I think they made some outstanding financial moves over the past year and a half. So, that allows an awful lot of room for some mistakes. Now, unfortunately, they have made most of those mistakes. They're so far off of their stated timetable. Right, initially, I think they were going to be at 23 exahash in the middle of 2022. Then it was the end of 2022. Then it was the middle of 2023. And now maybe it's going to be the end of 2023. I mean, at one point, they were probably 95% off their plan. So as an investor, just from an operational standpoint, that's a very scary situation to be in. Now, they put out an operational report every single month, and they kept investors informed as to what was happening. My frustration with them was, you know, you get burned 2, 3, 4 months in a row. At some point, why did they keep promising every single month? They made a promise that they failed to keep the next month. So to me, that gives me some pause in management's judgment. I mean, it's a very basic rule that all of us know. You underpromise and overperform. To overpromise and underperform, literally maybe like 12 or 15 monthly operational updates in a row, was not a good look. It just wasn't, and it makes you start to wonder, you know, are they ever going to get to where they're going? So I always felt they would get there, and that by the time they get to 23 exahash, if they can do that, and that seems more and more likely because they're now, you know, competing. Last month they mined the most Bitcoin out of anybody, but I will say, for a company who spent double or triple or quadruple or 5 times as much money on Bitcoin mining machines, they've only ever had, and also that statistic is Core Scientific notwithstanding, because they are in Chapter 11. Core Scientific continues to mine the most Bitcoin, but, you know, they're currently in Chapter 11. So, you know, the Marathon has come in 2nd place, 3rd place, 4th place, 5th place, sometimes 6th place, you know, as far as the most Bitcoin mined in a month. So for the largest company by far to be in 5th or 6th place, that was not a good look for them. So it's improving. I've said many times, I have not bought in yet. You know, and that's just my personal decision. I'm invested in Riot. Those two are very different companies, but they're also the two largest market caps by a mile, so I didn't want to be in both of those. But I have said many times over the last probably 60 to 75 days, I think Marathon's at a very interesting price point right now. So, you know, I like what they're doing. I think their operational reports are moving in the right direction. I do think, if I'm remembering correctly, they mined 740 Bitcoin in, well, that may have been the month before, maybe February. If February, then that's impressive. But there was a month in there where they were number 1 as far as the number of Bitcoin mined. And that should start to happen for them. And they should be competing for that, you know, every month with Riot and CleanSpark. And, you know, those guys have now even all gotten a little bit bigger than, there were some months where Bitfarms was ahead of all those guys. So I'm not sure that's going to happen anymore. And chasing behind them, you now have Cypher and TeraWolf, which are raising their exahash quite a bit. So we'll see. It's a long year. We're early in the year. But I do not dislike Marathon. In fact, I've been I have not bought any yet, but I've been ready to. It's like at the top of my watch list. But those are the things that I like, and those are the things that I'm concerned about with them. And I think if anybody's fair, you know, those are. You can decide whatever you want, right? It's everybody's own investment. They got to make their own, you know, decision. But it's not unreasonable to question a company that continues to miss their stated objectives that many months in a row. And they rely an awful lot on third parties. They took an asset-light approach, which they were crystal clear about, so that's not a surprise. But it leaves them very contingent on a lot of third parties doing what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it. And that was most of the reason they fell behind was, you know, third-party issues. But, you know, that's part of their business model. Now, if they can get to where they're going, you know, they could be the big winner. I don't think we know yet who's the big winner out of all these, and I think there'll still be some winners and losers. So, you know, it's not like throw a dart at the board and pick a Bitcoin miner. Every one of these has a different business model. Jeff said Cypher, Wolf, CleanSpark. And Ray, we love Marathon here. I think even Jeff's come around on Marathon. Jeff was not a big fan. All right. Let me just catch up for a minute. I fell way behind. Kramer loves Marathon. well, for whatever that's worth, I don't think anybody's making their buying decisions on that at this time. We're at 60 likes, everybody. Anybody who hasn't, who is willing, please smash the like button. It helps the live stream out a lot, and I appreciate it. Helps the live stream out, helps the channel out. So if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. If you didn't smash the like button, please smash the like button. If you're interested in joining and becoming a member, we have a lot of members on the live stream today, so that is much appreciated. It's only $5 a month, but it does support the channel. And what is right now, YouTube is in tough times right now, and I think a lot of investors are losing their faith. So congratulations to everybody on the live stream right now, especially everybody that has joined and is a member. You guys have held on through some very long, tough times, and you know they seem to be moving in the right direction right now, but only time will tell. Sanity's Eclipse said, I bought 10,555 shares of Wolf at 54 cents. You got in a good spot. Should I take the profits now or hodl? I mean, it depends on what your philosophy is and where you think they're going long term. Some combination of that is probably what I do over time. I mean, that you got some pretty quick profits, so you know, it wouldn't be unreasonable to take some of those profits. But obviously, that's got to be your investment decision. I'm a long-term investor, so mostly when stuff is up, you know, had I traded the highs and lows all the way along, you know, but you know, I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know when those are. So I tend to just hold. I do some, as most of you who follow the channel know, I do some trading in options. Right now, I'm buying some calls because I do think the next leg is up, although we've been sideways now for about a week. So I think the next leg is up. And the options that I've been buying expire May 19th, I think. So, you know, I have a little while. But those are fairly short term. But I give a little while for this thing to take what I think is going to be the next leg up. But we'll see. Austin said, hold Sanity. They will be at 5.5 exahash early Q2. Right. They are in the middle of ramping up big time. So, you know, TeraWolf and Cypher, if they're true to their words, those two companies will have grown extremely fast. Those will be the big movers in the last 3 or 4 month period of time. In the meantime, CleanSpark continues to grow. They've bought machines to get themselves to 9 exahash. They came into last year at 2 exahash, so, you know, that's some massive, massive growth on their part as well. But a lot of these guys have grown. Riot has grown their exahash quite a bit. Marathon now has grown their exahash quite a bit. They actually went backwards before they went forwards. But now they reported, last time they reported, I think 9.5 maybe exahash with 14 ready to go, but not yet energized. So, you know, at some point, hopefully over the next couple of months, you'll see Marathon at 14 exahash. And with Bitcoin where it is, I don't believe that any Bitcoin miner should be self-curtailing, you know, for financial reasons. There may be some Bitcoin miners that during the winter here have been forced to do some curtailment to, you know, give back to the grid. There's also a couple of miners that get paid for the energy that they give back to the grid. So Ray said, thanks for your answer. You're welcome. Scott said, I agree. Life. I missed what Life said. Life. I'm a bit scared that Wolf is now under $1 and could be hitting the pink sheet shortly. It's hard to fight short sellers once you're in that space. The only thing that I would say to that, because in general, that is usually a very, very fair assessment. Once something gets under $1, people start pushing it lower and lower and lower. But I will tell you, a lot of these Bitcoin miners already got from all the way down, to 35 cents. And typically in the past, if something's down at 38 cents or 35 cents, all hope is lost. At that point, their only option is one of two things. They get pink sheeted, or they do a reverse stock split to hold on. And then oftentimes, they end up right back where they started. So as a general rule, I understand that line of thought process. But with the Bitcoin miners, they have taken... These are some of the most volatile stocks I've ever seen in my entire life of trading. And, when a stock's down 97%, it's not that hard to get a 5x or 6x or 7x and get back from, especially, Wolf's in the 70s. Where are they? They're at 70, almost 76 cents right now. They're just a hop, skip, and a jump from $1. And we've seen several of these companies. For instance, DigiHost was hopelessly under $1. If you would have asked 100 people 3.5 months ago, is DigiHost getting back to $1? I'm guessing somewhere between 0 and 1 of those people would have guessed yes. But they're way past $1, and they're not the only ones that have jumped back up above $1. Argo Blockchain, the second they went under, they tanked, and it looked like they were done, and within a few days they were so far over $1 they've never been under since. So it does happen. But I can see, like, GREE now, we're deep into a relief rally, and GREE is still at 38 cents. So I would worry that they're in a situation where they're going to end up doing, and I think for most of these companies, they will first do a reverse stock split if they have to. If they've done all the extensions that they can do and enough time has passed. But from 38 cents, it's very difficult to see. But for me, at 75 or 76 cents, these guys could be at $1 next week for all I know. And it's happened with others on this very list. So Jeff said, I think it's a great time on the red days in an upswing to sell puts. I sold some puts in Mara, CleanSpark, Riot, selling around book value, but in January of 2025. Oh, you are selling Leaps. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you would certainly think that would be safe. Nothing's guaranteed, but so hopefully some of those had some pretty stiff premiums on them out that far. Particularly Marathon and Riot usually trade at very high premiums, their options. So targeting book value. Life is saying end of 2024 is looking very bright for them if they can stay afloat, which is saying most of the miners. Jeff saying the Mara $10 strike puts are selling at $7. I mean, that's awesome. And, you would think, unless something weird happens, that there are no guarantees. But as far as, your odds go, that seems like a really good risk reward equation there. So, but please, especially if you're selling puts, to me that is, if you've never done that before, please study and try with a few dollars or a few pennies and get the feeling of it, because that's the most, it can be very counterintuitive, and if you're not used to it, you kind of got to revisit the concept every time and understand what it is you're even doing. So I always like to caution people, and I know we have a lot of subscribers and members that are a much higher level of sophistication of trading, so I know you guys know what you're doing, but if you haven't, there's no shame in walking before you run on options. And options can be great. I do buy and sell options depending on what's going on. most of what I do is buy and hold, but I'm always in some options in one way or the other. So Ryan is saying, did you see Mawson sold their Cleanspark position? So we thought that we haven't gotten a verification on that, but it sounds like you're saying that that is true. So somebody had mentioned that earlier in the stream. I cannot remember who, but Ryan's saying the same thing. So it seems like maybe Mawson sold their Cleanspark shares. And really, I would actually feel good if that is what happened, because Cleanspark was only down 4% today. That is less than the average. And, you know, I don't know if Mawson's been selling them over time and they are now done. And that's one of the reasons that Cleanspark has been suppressed, because in my opinion, Cleanspark's numbers are crazy. $2.58 is wacko. And I'm going to go to their chart right now. Go to the 1 day. I mean, Cleanspark last month. So last month, when Bitcoin was at 25,000, Cleanspark was at $3.84. Bitcoin's now at, you know, fluctuating between 27 and 28,000, and you know, we are now almost 50% off of that. So I find there's no fundamentals, there's no news, there's nothing in the technicals that would show why would this be so far behind where they were last month. And it's not like they had run up to some crazy spot last month, because the time prior to that Bitcoin was at $25,000 was last August, and at that time Cleanspark was at almost $7 a share. So, you know, this line of progression tells me that, you know, if you don't like Cleanspark and you think they're going to fail, then obviously that's a different story. But I like what they're doing. I think they've grown massively. They've been smart about their dilution. They have done dilution. It's all been highly accretive. As a percentage, they've grown more than any other company. And to me, their stock is down here. So, you know, I don't know if that's been happening over the last couple of weeks. Maybe that's one of the reasons their price has lagged behind. In 2023, Cleanspark has lagged behind. They're one of the worst performing Bitcoin mining stocks in the year 2023, and they're one of the best performing Bitcoin miners from an operational update, which all of these guys do each month. So to me, there's a discrepancy there. I see a potential for opportunity in that. And then Jeff is saying, just to let everybody know, he does this with secured assets or cash when he's selling puts. So that's a part of understanding all that, so that you got to understand what your exposure and your risk is when you're doing that, because it's very different. When you're buying puts or calls, essentially your exposure is however much money you put in. That is not true when you're selling. So thank you, Jeff. That's a good point. So Ryan is saying it was over the last 3 weeks. So if that's true, that maybe explains an awful lot of this price activity right here. Did not make any sense to me at all. But if, you know, Mawson, was it Mawson? If they sold all their stock in the middle, then probably that's why this happened. So, you know, that could be, you guys got to decide for yourself, but that could be a catalyst. That could be a potential buying opportunity if Cleanspark keeps having good operational reports, and if Bitcoin stays healthy and moves in the right direction. I feel like the next leg is up, but I don't, you know, who knows? We'll see. I will not be surprised by anything. I guess we're probably all in that boat by now. After the last year and a half, there should be very little that surprises us in price action. Old Jock said he also heard that Mawson sold 90% of their shares. Jeff says Mawson's selling says more about their liquidity than it does about Cleanspark's chart. it was only 10 million bucks. So, yeah, I mean, I assume if Mawson was selling, it was to continue to improve their liquidity, because that company has had to do some massive adjusting of their world to increase their liquidity so they could keep doing what they're doing. Part of which was, you know, this is the culmination of, they sold that facility, and, you know, the part that they got in stock, it sounds like they're now converting to cash in order to fulfill, you know, what was supposed to be a part of increasing their liquidity. So that makes sense to me. Scott said Cleanspark has dilution. Jeff said Cleanspark, hands down the best miner. Scott said watch James on Invest Answers, and he talks about Cleanspark. So there's a James out there who I think it sounds like likes Cleanspark as well. I know there's several YouTubers I think that do like Cleanspark. I'm not sure if they're still talking about them or not. I'm on record. You guys can see I've done a deep dive on Cleanspark every month for the last, I probably have at least 30 Cleanspark videos. So if you want to check any of those out, you're welcome to check them out, and you'll know my personal feelings on Cleanspark, and I think they're informative. But probably I would just stick to checking out the latest and greatest video, because obviously the older ones are superseded at this point. So anybody who would, if you have not, please smash the like button while we are on the live stream. It helps the live stream out a lot, and I really appreciate it. Our live streams have been gaining some momentum, so I'm hoping to keep doing that, because I do like this live stream format. I want to put out my videos as well, but, you know, getting to talk to everybody in real time like this on a variety of topics as they happen throughout the day is, you know, this serves a better and a different purpose. So I'm glad when I get the chance to do these, and I appreciate everybody for joining me, and I appreciate all those of you who have smashed the like button. We're at 72 likes. We've been getting 100 every single live stream lately. So if you're willing, you can smash the like button now, and you can unlike it later if you don't want it in your history or whatever the case may be. Sandy's Eclipse said, bull markets are born on pessimism, grown on skepticism, and mature on optimism, and die on euphoria. So, yeah, we might as well hang that one on the wall. Maybe I'll get a new wall plate that says that. But that sounds about right. Douglas said, risk on in 3, 2, 1, takeoff. So, I hope you're right, Douglas. It does seem like there's a little bit more appetite for a risk-on trade, and this market went risk-off in a way that I've never seen. I think this was the most risk-off environment in maybe I'll say the modern history of the stock market anyway. I can't speak for the, 20s, 30s, 40s, but, in the last 50 years, I don't think we've ever had a risk-off environment like we just went through right now. And I do think it seems to be, there's some days where you can see, like, the risk-on stocks just go nuts. So, those are the days that I look for the Bitcoin miners to go nuts. The days where that lines up with Bitcoin having a good day. So, if it's a risk-on day and the small-cap, high-growth stocks are running and Bitcoin's having a great day, those are the times you can see 10%, 15%, 20% moves in some of these miners. And by the way, we have had some days where we see 30, 40, 50, 60% moves to the upside in one day in some of these Bitcoin miners. And I'm going to go to one of my charts right now and show you where that's landed us, because, these moves can be massive. Oh, this is not where I want to be. Okay, so this is year to date. So I do this every Friday, so today is now Monday. There's been an additional trading day since then, so this is not updated for today's trading. But as of Friday, since January 1st, and remember, Friday was only March 24th. This says the 17th. That is false. fix it. That's through March 24th. Oh, you know what? Maybe that's not false. Maybe I'm in the wrong folder. Hold on. I think this is the wrong folder. All right. Hold that thought, everybody. I'll get to the right one. Give me 1 second because I want to show this because it's an important schedule. Though right now, I'm going to take this off the screen because it's the wrong one. That's a week old. Okay. All right, let's take that from the top. So, year to date. This is year to date. This is the, I think there's 18 Bitcoin miners that I follow. So, year to date through Friday, March 24th. So, we're not yet 3 months into the year. You'll see, first of all, Bitcoin is up 68% year to date. The overall relief rally, or whatever you want to call this, is up, you know, it was up over 80% at one point. As of Friday, Bitcoin was up 68% since the beginning of the year. But look at some of these moves. I mean, DigiHost, remember I told you DigiHost was, you know, trading 30, 40 cents. And, you know, now it's so far over $1. They're not, nobody's even thinking about that anymore. They're up 308% on the year. Core Scientific's up 305%. That one's a little easier to understand because of the fact that they did go into Chapter 11. And, you know, their stock was down, I think, at one point, very close to 99.9%. It got all the way down to 4 cents. So a 300% run up on that one is not necessarily as impressive. Cypher up 282% on the year just this year. So that's a massive, they're now the third largest market cap Bitcoin miner. That's a massive, gigantic move to the upside. Riot, which is the largest. And actually, there have been a few days lately where Riot and Marathon switched places as the largest and second largest market cap, but very, very close. Riot has been the largest for most of the year this year. They're up 155% this year. Marathon, which is the other large, you know, and they're only, you know, about 1.3 or $1.4 billion market caps, which in the grand scheme of things is still a small cap stock. But inside of the Bitcoin miners, these are the big market caps. They're more than twice as big as the third largest. So you'll see all of these from here forward are all up over 100% year to date. So there have been a lot of big moves to the upside. And to the point that we were just talking about, you know, Cleanspark has lagged behind. They're up 32% year to date. And possibly, you know, that could be some of the Mawson effect. If Mawson has liquidated 90% or 100% of their position over the last, you know, month or whatever the case may be, then maybe this is one of the reasons that Cleanspark is lagging, because from an operational standpoint and a financial standpoint, I don't really see why they would be behaving differently than these, in my opinion. So, you know, you got to ask yourself, they're not the only ones underperforming. TeraWulf, which earlier in the stream, a lot of people talked about, they are very interested in buying. TeraWulf just went green this week. So as of March 17th, they were still here. They were still red last week. This is last week's that I went to. This was the wrong one. You'll see as of last week, so not the Friday that just happened 1 week before that, TeraWulf on the year was still in the red. They were the only Bitcoin miner in the red at all. They had a big catch-up week, and now you'll see they're up 18%. They're in the green, but there's a lot of companies down here where you might want to look for an opportunity, but I would caution you to also do a deep dive on these companies, because some of these, their business models have changed drastically over the course of time, so there may be a reason that they're lagging behind. Let's see. Jeff said Cleanspark absolutely crushed it the last 14 months. Honestly, Cleanspark's whole turnaround really started with the hire of Gary Gary V is what I'll be calling him for this portion of the program. Jeff said, when you interview Matt from CleanSpark, would love color on how Gary Vec has impacted the company. So I can ask him about that. Let's see. I think I pretty much caught up in the chat. It's amazing. Did I even put the next poll up? No, I did not. All right, so let me put the next poll up. Give me 1 second. All right, so next poll, real quick. This one's an easy one. So I'm going to look at, I'll show you the 15-minute chart while we're at it. Bitcoin to $30,000 by the end of April 2023. So that gives us just over 1 month. We're now hanging around at around 27,000. We did test, I'm going to zoom out. You can see we tested this 28,800. You know, for several days we were in this area testing it. We candlewicked to it one day. We candlewicked above it another day. That was the 22nd of March. So that's now, 5 days ago. And, we've had a little pullback since then. So the question is, can we get past this what has been a strong line of resistance at the moment? And really, we just got past this purple line at 25.2 was a very long-term line of resistance. So we broke through that, and now we're at the next one. Can we break through that in April, or are we going back down to revisit some of these older numbers that we don't like so much? That is the poll. If you have not voted, it's free to vote. So I encourage you to vote, and let's see what people think. Jeff, poll. Yes, I finally got, I know, I went a long time. I forgot I had a bunch of polls lined up. I forgot about them. So this is the 1 day, but what I wanted to look at was the 4 hour, because this is the one where this was a little disappointing, unfortunately. This, this orange line was all weekend long. So you can see we were hanging out all weekend. We got back up to where we were when the market closed on Friday, and Bitcoin hung around there for, these are all 4 hour candles. So that's a long time. That's like a day. And then this morning, as the markets opened in the US, it was like simultaneous, which very often happens. Monday morning, simultaneous with the market open, Bitcoin, gives everything back that it got over the weekend. In this case, it gave back even more. It kind of went down to last week, middle of the week's low. This was last Wednesday, so we revisited that, and now we're having a little momentum in the right direction. But what did not happen. So we drew this descending line of resistance quite some time ago, and since then it's hit right here. It didn't quite touch, but a couple of times right here over the weekend. It got back up, but it failed, and then it really took a turn down. So, from here to here to here, these are lower lows. I feel like we need to, and I was hoping it would hold 50. On the 4 hour, but it didn't. So now we're under 50. We've had to move to the downside, and at the same time, we had just had, if I zoom in here, we had just had over the weekend in my video, I talked about the fact that if this, we were in the middle of this green candle. I said if it holds, that's going to be a confirmed bullish crossover on the 4 hour time frame. Well, it did hold, and then we had 3 more candles on the histogram that were green, and then boom, when the market opened, everything tanked. We had a bearish crossover, and now we're red, red, red. So this turned around on a dime. I mean, you can see we were building momentum in one direction, and then wham, this went the other way completely. So, but that also just goes to show how fast these things can change. So I do think we need to get above this line. We need to get back above 50, obviously. We need to get above this line. We need to break the trend and start moving in the other direction on the 4-hour if we're going to have a little bit of a run. The fear and greed index I don't have open right now, but that has been high. That's been at like 8 to 10 month highs. We've been in the 60 to 65 range, which technically is greed. That's the bottom end of the greed range. You know, usually in a bull market, we're more in the 80, 85, sometimes 90. So, you know, we're nowhere near those numbers, but we did finally get out of, we spent over a year in fear. Then we had spent a little bit of time in neutral. Now we're just getting into greed a little bit, but I think we're only at the beginning of that. So hopefully there's a lot of room left to the upside. Organic Autos said, I think we grab liquidity back at 25.2 before going to 30. So, I mean, I could see that. And if we do, I think there's plenty of room for that to happen in April. This is not that big of a move from where we are right now back down to this purple line at 25.2. You know, that's a 7% move to the downside from where we are right now. So it certainly would not be unreasonable to think that we're going to go retest this line, especially since we got through it and we have not retested it. So a retest would be more normal probably than not. Certainly not unusual. So I think that's quite a possible scenario. Life is saying something very similar. 30K is possible, but a return to 24 to 26 is also possible. So maybe it will be both of those, like Organic Autos is saying. And Life saying the power of Bitcoin is you can't really pick the short-term or the mid-term prices, but long-term prices can be understood better as in greater than 68K. So yeah, I mean, right. The question is, do we believe long-term, is Bitcoin going to hit all-time highs again? Is it going to break all-time highs? I mean, for most of the year 2021, I think most people were fairly certain we were on the way to 100,000. That did not happen. We turned around and went into a crypto winter. So now, you know, we're back at lower numbers. And when you're at these lower numbers, it's very hard to imagine. You know, Bitcoin 50,000 seems like it's crazy right now. But what I would say is in November of 2021, when we were at Bitcoin 65,000, if somebody would have said, hey, a year from now, we're going to be at Bitcoin, you know, 20,000, that probably very few people would have agreed with that position. So it's a very volatile asset. Bitcoin is extremely volatile. All the cryptocurrency world is very volatile, as you guys know. So there's swings up and down, and we'll see what the year brings. But if you trend it over time, obviously, I mean, Bitcoin is up by far more than any other asset class, you know, by many, many multiples, hundreds of multiples versus anything else. If you take it from its inception, which was only, I think, 13 years ago. Let's see how we're doing on the poll. It's a little early to check. So if you have not voted, you can vote on the poll. Bitcoin 30K by the end of April 2023. So that doesn't mean it's going straight there, but sometime between now and the end of April, do we touch $30,000 for Bitcoin? That is the question. Anybody, if you have not, if you would be so kind as to smash the like button, it helps the stream out a lot, and I appreciate it. I'm trying to do, you know, today I did an after the market closes stream, so I don't know if you guys prefer. We were doing in the middle of the day, and I'm speaking on the East Coast of the United States, so what for me is the middle of the day, and the middle of the trading day in the United States, we were doing some streams last week. So let me know in the comments if you guys prefer that time to after the market close. Let's see what else. Add some more stuff here. Oh, this is just kind of miscellaneous, but Binance's Bitcoin trading volume hits the lowest level in 8 months following the termination of zero-fee trading. So I was not aware of this. I don't use Binance, but zero-fee trade volume accounted for 66% of Binance's trading volume in mid-March prior to the decision to eliminate the promotion. So that's a significant drop-off. Yeah, because as you guys know, when it's not zero fees, the fees can be overwhelming sometimes on these trades. And there's so many wallets that have not moved. I mean, I don't have that tab up, and I'm not going to go chase it down, but I know the number of wallets that haven't traded in over a year, over 2 years, over 3 years. Those are all at all-time highs. The number of wallets that haven't traded in over 10 years is at an all-time high, although I would say that statistic is only 3 years old because, until Bitcoin became 10 years old, no wallet could possibly qualify for that. Anything? Oh, yeah, I do want to go through this real quick. Let me find this. Okay, so last week we talked about this. This was March 22nd. Today is March 27th. ARK Invest sells 13.5 million Coinbase shares after a steady buying streak. So right after this, so they sold $13.5 million worth of shares. And the next day, Coinbase crashed. Now, fast forward a few days. This was today. ARK Invest scoops up Coinbase and block shares for the second straight day. So, they sold a lot of Coinbase right before it tanked, and now they're buying it back, after it tanked. So it seems like they think it's going to be back on the move. So they're saying Thursday and Friday last week after Coinbase tumbled on getting hit with a Wells notice, and Block took a hit following a short seller's report. So that Wells notice is from the SEC, which oftentimes is the precursor to some type of action being taken. So that was a shock to Coin, which had been on a run. I'm going to look at the Coin. So if I go back, this is the beginning of January. So you'll see they had 2 run-ups. I can't remember what the scare was in the middle, but this was 183% run-up. And then it had a pull back, about 42%. And then from that bottom, it ran up again, another 68%. So this is where Cathie Wood got out, right up here, and now this is where she's buying back in. So we'll see. That could turn out to be a very good move. And I will tell you, one of the reasons that I don't have an issue with that move, and a lot of people would say, oh, what a coincidence that she sold, the day before it crashed, and now she's buying, after it crashed. But that is a part of how these funds work. Because Coinbase has had such a gigantic run up, her fund was probably out of balance, and it was very heavy in Coinbase. So she had to get rid of some shares to rebalance the fund. Now, I don't know for a fact that that's what happened, but that is how these funds work. So to me, it's highly likely that that's what was going on. So she got out as a matter of, I don't want to say luck, but as a matter of that's how these funds work. When you're too heavy after a big run up, you sell. Now, the stock is down a bunch. Now she's probably light in the fund, so she's got to buy the shares back. So that all worked out in their favor in this instance, but obviously you win some of those, you lose some of those. Life is saying people don't seem to realize that Binance being sued is a massive positive for Coinbase, even though they are being warned of potential charges for infractions. Yeah, I mean, at some point, it's like Coinbase is going to be the last one standing in the U.S. anyway. I know Binance, Binance may get to the point where they're sick of dealing with the United States and they just go conduct business everywhere else. Coinbase, who does have a relationship with BlackRock, I think is the most solid play by far out of all of the crypto exchanges. So that's just my opinion. I think they went through the IPO process. They're a publicly traded company. They have very strong partners, including but not limited to BlackRock. So I think they have an awful lot going for them. Yep, trading volume went way down. We know we're in a crypto winter, and their financials don't look as good as they did at the peak of the frenzy. But that's why I consider, I'll get to the next poll, and it involves Coinbase as a potential investment opportunity. So I'll let this poll go for a little while because we just started it, I feel like. 15 minutes ago, we got 32 votes. So vote if you haven't voted and you can vote. Bitcoin 30,000 in April? Yes, no, maybe. All right. I'm going to do one more poll, and then I'm probably going to wrap it up. Unless any of you guys drop in the comments if you got any thoughts or questions or anything we talked about or anything we started to talk about and then we left and forgot to finish talking about it. The VIX looks just fine, right? I mean, the market was okay today. I don't know if we talked about what the market did. So the S&P was up a tiny bit, 0.16%. So that was basically flat on the day. The Dow, which probably for most of us means the least, was up 0.6%. The NASDAQ, which I know for my stocks that I hold and that are on my watch list, this is probably the most important one for me. And that was down. That was in the red, 0.47. And the Russell, which is the small caps, was up 1%. So, somebody earlier was talking about that risk on trade coming back. So that's a sign right there. Of course, one day does not a trend make, but gold at 1957. So gold, it got to 2,000 intraday a couple of times last week, and it just can't seem to quite get back there. Crude's up 5% to 73. This was down to like $65 just days ago. So let's end this poll. I think we have a consensus. Bitcoin to 30,000 by the end of April. It's not a resounding yes, but 71% say yes, 29% say no. So that's skewing towards yes, but again, that's not a runaway. There's still an awful lot of people that think we're going lower on Bitcoin before we head back up. Life is saying my only other comment would be that it was interesting the MicroStrategy was able to secure an OTC trade at an average that was under 24K. That tells me some big players assume another pullback. So, I mean, that's possible. And I think just looking at this chart and with all of that, it would certainly, there's no way anybody could be shocked if we have a pullback. The question is, can this line hold? To me, that's the important thing. If we bounce off of this and turn what was, this line at 25.2 was resistance since last August of 2022. In fact, the last time we were above this was June of 2022. So this was a very strong line of resistance. We popped above it. We've never retested it. So, you know, to go bounce off of this, that would be some pretty natural price action. But if we break through this, are we going to head back down to, you know, 23 or 22 or who knows? I mean, once the momentum shifts, anything's on the table. So I'm just going to leave it on the 15-minute. So since the market's closed, we're up a little bit. A mix of green and red candles, but all in all, we're up since the equity markets in the U.S. closed today. Bitcoin's been up a little bit. It was down 3% on the day. You can see the Bitcoin miners were just red across the board. The worst performer was Saylor, but if we revisit this list, you'll see, still the wrong list. It's this list. Saylor's up 282% on the year, so yes, they did have a pullback today, but you know, that's natural also. Jeff's saying, I'd love to buy a few more Bitcoin under 19,800. So if I go back to my 1 day, you know, that's this line back here. And that was the peak of the previous bull market back in 2017. It's now 2023. So this is a long time in between. Bitcoin's never done this before. So it already did something it's never done before, which is go below the previous cycle's high. So we're now 6 years later. And that's why, you know, if the 200-day moving, or sorry, the 200-week moving average, we spent months and months under. That's a 4-year moving average almost. And we were underneath that for 6 or 8 months. Where'd that go? Let me just throw that indicator on here. So I'll just highlight it a little bit. So the yellow line I just added is the 200 week. So again, almost 4-year simple moving average. And you can see we went below that back in June of 2022. Prior to that, really, other than a miscellaneous 1 day here or 2 days there, we had never really been below the 200-week moving average. But you'll see for 85 to 90% of the time since this day, which was, you know, coming up on 9 months ago, we've been below or well below this average. This rally, or whatever you want to call it, finally took us, and you'll see the first candle that moved above this, we ran. And now we've got a nice healthy little distance. So I do think it's important. We want to stay above this 200-week moving average, which means, you know, even if potentially we bounce off of this line and, you know, go candle wick below this, I don't think we want to go below this line at 25.2. I don't think we want to close a daily candle below that and below the 200-week moving average. Those would be two very unhealthy signs. So hopefully we maintain this. Hopefully we never get anywhere near it. But if we have to go retest some lower lows, let's see what happens. Organic Auto is asking, Tom, when you look at miners' prices in the past compared to Bitcoin's price in the past, have you ever tried correlating the S&P's level on any of those given days when looking back? So I have done some analysis against the S&P. I've also done some analysis against the NASDAQ because it seems like the NASDAQ has a little more correlation. But the Bitcoin miners, I haven't found... I don't think there is a perfect correlation. I think there's times where certain things line up And there was a long time where the NASDAQ and Bitcoin seemed to have a pretty heavy correlation. But the Bitcoin miners have just been a leveraged play to the downside, and they have lagged behind on the way back up so far. That's just what's going on. I mean, you can see, let me find this other chart. Oh, that's the wrong one. Just one more chart. This is the Bitcoin miners effectively over the last month. So you can see that in this period of time, this just doesn't correlate to anything. Bitcoin was up 10%, so it doesn't correlate to Bitcoin. The NASDAQ was up. The S&P 500 was up. Yet the vast majority of the Bitcoin miners were down anywhere from a little bit to substantially. So there was only one Bitcoin miner that outperformed Bitcoin in this period of time, and that was Riot, and that was only 11% to 10%. So this happens. There are other times where there's dips and lags. Some people are saying, well, this is now permanent. There's too much competition, and the Bitcoin miners are never going to catch up and be a leverage play on Bitcoin again. So, that is a theory. That's not my theory, but, we'll see. Maybe. I think these are all due for a run if Bitcoin can stay healthy. I think this month's worth of lagging this far behind, I think we'll get caught up, because it's not the first time we've seen them, one run out ahead of the other or vice versa. Let's see. Organic Auto said it's just, to me, it may be a little bit of an explanation for the huge lag in some of these miners. Yeah, no doubt. This chart shows the miners are lagging big time. So, if that's a part of it, I don't know. Something's causing this, and it's not the first time it's happened. So, maybe one day they'll never, reconnect. But I think we will get to the point. If this is in the plus, these should be leveraged above it, in my opinion. I don't think that fundamental premise has changed. So in any given 3, 4, 5 week period of time, that might not hold true. And again, it's a fair point that, if the markets aren't doing well, these are all equities, and Bitcoin is its own thing. So, maybe that's a part of the reason why they lag behind from time to time. So I'd like to see him catch up, and I'd like to see him catch up in April. That's my hope. That's my thought process. I think that's what's going to happen. So, all right, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you, everybody, for joining me today in an impromptu live stream. It's just I thought a lot was going on today, so let's just close out looking at Bitcoin. So pretty steady, 27,153 on TradingView right now. So let's hope tomorrow maybe we make a run up. We'll see what happens. Thanks again, everybody. Thanks to all the members. Thanks for the super chats, and thanks to the subscribers. And if you're not subscribed, remember to subscribe to the channel if you would. So thanks a lot. Everybody have a great night. Thanks, Jeff. Have a great night. Thanks, JD. Have a great night.